So, opening round is over. It's done. We're into the real stuff real soon. What up, everyone? It's your main guy, me. I'm here to talk AFL Fantasy, alright? And look, I got one of those things. Number 36 in the AFLW Women's Fantasy Competition. Is there any bigger, prize? Yes. 35 more hats up above and, the cars and stuff. So listen up. I know what I'm talking about. I have the cred now. So basically, if you don't listen to me, well, you're just look, I'm not even going to say it. All right? Anyways, I want to talk about my team because I like doing this. Last season was an epic fail. I was a man who started with Giant Newcomb, and let's just say that was the start of my troubles, and the troubles never, ever finished. So it was a bit of a chalked year for me. I can't remember where I finished. It was not good. But we're back. I did the AFLW fantasy, obviously, afterwards, and I literally probably watched about one game, and so it basically became all, statistic watching and, just getting information from the places where stuff was available for it. So I guess to finish this high was quite interesting, only watching one game. I don't know, maybe it brings a good perspective for this season, and I can apply what I learned from that to this game and drive away in the big old car. Let's just talk about the team. Jaden Short. He's at my D1 because aside from like Sheasel, I don't really like any of the options. You got Zorko, you got a whole lot of guys, but it's basically D1. You either go with Sheasel or not. I just don't think there's enough value with Sheasel to start him at D1. He looks like he will mainly play midfield and possibly go forward, because he was drafted as a forward. So I don't see him breaking 112 average this year. Obviously, we'll probably want him in at some stage. But Jaden Short, I have been thinking of maybe throwing Ash into D1 at stages, but I just don't think there's a risk I want to take. The first half against Collingwood in his preseason game, he looked really good and then just slowed down. It's just not one I'm really keen on fading, but I could imagine a scenario where Short underperforms because, I actually don't think he's going to be on all of the Richmond kick-ins. I think Vlosten might be the main guy for kick-ins. We'll see, but I just think it's a bit of a straight bat there, The other guy most recently I had was Sicily, but that forward swap swingman thing seems a lot more real than I thought it would be. Still value there, but don't really want to do it. Just trying to think of any other D1 options, but not really any. What is this team selected by? Yeah, Whitfield, Zorko, Flanders is injured, Martin's interesting. You could maybe go Martin, but you don't want to. Sinclair injured, Wangan and Miller not looking too great. I do like the looks of what's his name? Jordan Clark and Holmes, but I just think they're not the kind of guys I'm looking for at that price. So I think Short at least early can mash them. Next up, Ash came into my team after his game against Collingwood. His second half, he essentially scored 100. He looks like elevating from what I saw in that game, his game to another level. And there's just a few guys that have left the Giants, and he looks like he's more of a 1B option than that second or third guy next to Whitfield. I mean, like, Whitfield was cramping late in the game and he went forward, and Ash he didn't look like he had any problems. So I can see it being a big year for Ash. Look, playing the Demons next week, it's a good matchup for defenders against Demons. And similar story to Roberts, he looked like a similar role to what Ash was doing, except he was more of the main guy, just receiving those kick-ins from Blakely as opposed to taking them, really. He just looks good. He looks hungry for the ball, and that's the thing with these guys. You know, you want them to pass the for me, you want them to pass the is he him test, right? And if you don't have players that you've watched and decided he is him, what are you doing? You know, don't just go with the crowd. Watch them and see if they're him. You know, Roberts, he is him. He's the guy back there that's going to accumulate. You know, like, when the ball is floating around, he'll be there picking up those marks, kicks. He's a hungry hippo. Perryman looked really good to start the game. Crystal started cramping late, but he looks like the second midfielder after Dacos at Collingwood. Can't see him doing any worse than the 90 he scored for the year, to be honest. He could have had a much bigger game, but he slowed down. After watching that, it's a bit daft not to be picking him. All these guys have the bye, but, you know, I'm not really too concerned with best 18. And I'm happy with the bench options and stuff, just to maybe, you know, pull out a 100 out of the bottom of themselves. But next up is Sam Taylor, and guys, controversial. This is a cash gen decision. You know, it's probably the last decision I've made for the year. Look, he was not great. He's never been a great fantasy scorer, but this game, he was easily best on ground for me. Maybe some would say Callaghan, but I thought Taylor was just ridiculously good. And coming up against the Demons, firstly, I'll try and lay out my points here as chaotically as possible, but from the past, like, 5 years of watching Melbourne, they like to just bomb the footy into their forward 50 and just hope someone marks it. And I don't know what Taylor's previous performances are against the Demons, but if he plays like he did against Collingwood, he could have another massive game like this against Melbourne. Probably not going to happen, but, you know, he's going to make cash, and it's an easy thing to do to just trade him out at his bye in round 2 if he doesn't really get a great score, which he might. You know, like, he could get another 90, and it's like everyone's going to be like, oh, why didn't I pick him? Because he's just a massive leg up that you're offered with opening round that you don't really want to pass up. I had similar thoughts to something like this last year with a guy like Callum Brown, who kicked an 80, scored an 80 last year. It's a bit different with Callum Brown just not being that great of a player. And that sort of worked, but it was more of a thing you wouldn't do last year. But Sam Taylor's score is just so massive compared to his average. It's just like a step above that kind of thought process I was thinking of. And the winner last year, like, this is something to learn from. Yes, he did it with Tom Green. Like, he started him with the good fixtures and everything and then traded him out. These kind of opening round plays that we get offered, I think you need to try and take advantage of. So essentially, with the information we have, someone like Sam Taylor, this is going to be a long video if I'm still on Taylor, but someone like Sam Taylor, we have as much information as possible in an aspect of the game that won't come from anywhere else. And so what I think is optimal is to have him and hope for a good score and even greater cash gen, and then plan on trading him out at his bye or hold him, because like if he scores another massive score, you don't want to trade him because he'll just be improving cash gen, and after that maybe you can put him off the field and just let those price rises happen. But yeah, this is the kind of thing I'm happy to play with, because even the defense options, the rookies aren't that great. I could put like one of these guys I have, Luke Cleary, on field, who I'll get to eventually. But yeah, I think against Melbourne, Sam Taylor has every chance to do what he did against Collingwood. He looked really good. From what I've seen or heard, he may have been pretty injured last season, playing through heaps of injuries. He just looked fit as, and he was getting on the edge of, some plus sixes and stuff. Just, he's obviously not a massive fantasy guy, but I think this is one you may want to just try, 5% own. It's just the kind of thing I like doing, so we'll do it. Next up, Jackson Pryor. His VFL stats are really good, so a lot of people talked about him. I'm surprised he's only at 10% ownership. But yeah, just a guy I think who's pretty locked in that Essendon backline, who like to kick it around. We'll see what he does against Hawthorn. He could have a really great game. He could just be a 60. Who knows? I think out of all the sort of rookie options you have, he's the best. Then Reed, and then Cleary and Trainer. Obviously, I'll get to these guys. So yeah, Pryor I like as that D6 or D5 option, depending on how you're going. I think the winning team will have Pryor, is all I'll say. I mean, this is the winning team. This is the Highlights winning team, so it is what it is. But I think starting Pryor is the correct decision. He averaged 85-ish in the VFL. These kind of guys can pull out big scores from nowhere, so good pick, I think. And then Zach Reed's a bit of a standard pick. I don't know if I need to explain too much with him, coming off his bad injury or whatever it was last year, and he should be good. He should be okay. 50, 60 average probably. Just slow cash gen. He's there. And then Luke Cleary is really low owned. This one obviously will just be playing out with teams that are announced. I'm hoping he's named on the field for the Dogs, but his preseason game, I thought he was the best defender for the Bulldogs, and it was like he was applauded in the commentary. It's hard to not think Luke Beveridge saw his game and thought anything but him clearly being a best 22 option. His VFL scoring is okay. He's capable of getting on the end of one of those really good games where you just like 4 or 5 extra marks, come to him. He's really good in the preseason game. Just looked like a him type play. He looked like he could play. Didn't look out of the ordinary. So I am a little concerned if he's like named last on the bench or something like that. That would probably indicate he could be a sub, and so you're sort of risking it there. What I would maybe consider is just waiting up until the subs are announced, and if he's not sub, switch him to someone. But I might not have the guy to go to there because Trainer is going to be playing before him. I'm not sure when the Bombers play, so maybe I could do something there. I don't know if the Bombers play before or after the Dogs. If the Bombers play after the Dogs, that would be best for Cleary here. But yeah, I just have this feeling he's going to score a 73, something like that in this game against North if he's playing. So I'm quite surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but 1.5% ownership. No one's on him. No one watched his game, I guess. If he's named, I don't know. Are people switched on and I'm not? I don't know. Jordan Dawson is my captain. He just looks like, I don't know, I love Dawes, and he's a great goddamn player. Captain option. This is probably, what is his ownership like? 22%. It's sort of, you're either picking him or Brayshaw earlier in the preseason. He's the guy for me. He's him. Dawson is him. Best player in the comp, winning the Brownlow, 110 plus year for him. You can't really tag him because if he does start getting tagged, he can be moved to defense. And he looked okay as a forward. He looked like he could lead up and take a grab, kick a couple of goals. Just that all-around capable player that will play most of his time in the midfield. He's him, man. And then Connor Rozee, he looks like being able to take the level up from his average, just considering Butters isn't there, just a massive amount of usage he gets without Butters, and he looked so good against St Kilda. He looked like a fantasy player, undervalued. That's all I'll say. He's looking good there. 33% owned, a lot of people on him. Quite surprising. Next up, we got Tom Powell. People in the industry, we call him toilet paper, because his initials are TP, and so is toilet paper. So Dr. Toilet, God, he's ready to explode. He had great Sandful numbers when he was like under 18s and stuff. He's the second guy in terms of a tag target in the midfield. Like, I would say he's not the kind of guy you'd even expect to get tagged. It's always going to be Sheasel and then LDU. Sorry, third guy. He's just going to be totally able to do what he wants. You saw it against West Coast. He took 11 marks, I think. This is a guy I could see against the Dogs, who can give up a lot of fantasy scoring. He could get a 150. He could be one of these guys that just takes everything. And I don't want to risk missing someone like him, and I think he's just ready to break out if he's in that midfield role that he hasn't really had cemented. All the reports and stuff that you read and listen to say he's ready to explode. Then we got Clary. I don't really know if I need to explain too much with him. Undervalued and a bit of a monster if he's fit and back to his old self. And then Callaghan is one that came in late for me. Sort of considered him a little prior, but he looked like the main midfielder. Obviously Tom Green's not there, but I think that just Tom Green there probably helps him get a couple of extra possessions, because Tom Green's more of an inside guy who can get it to Callaghan, and then becomes less of a tag target as well. But he looks like another one of these guys ready to explode. He was Petraka for me up until today. Petraka's just the guy I can't really squeeze into this team. And I would like to start him, but I just think Petraka does have value. Like, watching his preseason game, he was great, running on top of things like no one really expected, but I just think Callaghan's better value. And he's another guy who could maybe be traded in his round 2 buy, because we've already got this built-in cash gen if he doesn't, perform with Tom Green there if he's there. But I like it. Will Day, another guy coming into these opening round games. I don't want to miss any of these guys that just looked like they could explode and are undervalued and have given you a score already that is positive and provides cash gen. I just think you need to squeeze them all in. And Will Day looked that first half like he was going to win the Brownlow. He did get tagged later, and he does look like quite an easy tag target. I'm not sure if that will happen every week, but he still scored okay. And versing the Bombers, who's going to tag him? Durham, Satterfield maybe. I think he is one of these sort of top midfielder guys that can get tagged pretty easily out of a game. I don't think he's ever really dealt with a serious tag his career yet, and it looks like this year he'll get it. But the past couple of years, I've thought about players that are going to get tagged, and it hasn't really affected too many too often. But yeah, we'll see. I just think you don't really want to be messing around with Day. Look, he's nearly owned by half the comp now. Just a good guy there, undervalued. Chera coming back from injury. I'm really surprised he's at 10% ownership. I thought it'd be higher at this stage, but he's versing Richmond first game, and I struggled to see him not scoring quite heavily for this first game at the very least, and he's super under-owned. He's shown a ceiling. I feel like a lot of people are going to Hollands and Peatling. Hollands initially over Chera. Sort of similar ownership. I'm a little concerned Hollands doesn't actually have that him factor I was talking about. You know, like, he doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to demand the ball like a Nick Martin did last year. I don't think he's going to be on too many kick-ins, and I do think he will sort of be sort of like a halfback wing role as towards that roaming halfback that we think, or early talk was about him. He does have a role change, but I'm not convinced he's that super high scoring guy. But if he pops, he could go well against Richmond. Obviously, it just seems like something you could do is fade him for Camberelli, who looks like he's going to play that wing role that Hollands initially did have. And who knows, maybe Camberelli outscores Hollands, or if they match, then you're just winning with Camberelli on field for Hollands. So yeah, I like Camberelli there. Bit of a toss up who you play in that M8 spot. I did have O'Driscoll for most of pre-season, but he just dropped out because I can't really afford this particular team with him in it. So yeah, Ashcroft O'Sullivan, I don't really need to explain too much about. I think most people have him, and understandably have them either on field or on the bench. Going to be good rookies, cash gen wise. Lloyd Meeks, another one of these guys from opening round I'm trying to cash in on. What would be ideal, I think, is to trade him at his buy for Cherry, Marshall, or Gawn. One of these guys, top three guys who's dropped a bit. But yeah, Meek's going to go positive in cash gen for the first kind of month as a season after that first game, you would think. Tough matchup against Essendon historically for Rucks, but I don't know. I'm not too convinced of that narrative at the moment, even though it would be statistically likely that he has a lowest than usual score against Essendon. But I like him. I like Meek here in terms of fading Cherry, Gawn, Marshall. They're just so expensive, and having Meek here really helps me like solidify this team that I've got going in terms of value in every aspect possible, besides, like a Dawson as the captain, the main captain option, who may still have value, And then De Koning, another guy I don't think I need to explain too much about. No Pitnet. He be rocking there. He is him. He looked great. Meek is him as well. And then Harry Barnett, good luck charm. You could have Boyd here. Barnett's just that guy, man. He'll be that vice captain loophole option. Is what it is. Isaac Rankin at F1. Let me just take a swig of green tea for the green tea lovers at home. Isaac Rankin has been in and out of my team the most out of the forward line. It's either him or Sanders. I think I want to be playing Rankin against Saints in this first game. I feel like Rankin has told Nix he wants to be in the kind of role that could maybe win the Brownlow. That's the kind of attitude I think Rankin has, and believes in himself as a midfielder. What seems to probably happen is if the Crows are winning, or as Nick likes to say, have the momentum, he will go forward. But this first game, I think it's a bit risky not to have him because he could have a 120 as the second midfield guy. You know, it's either him, Horn-Francis, I can't really get to, who's already quite expensive, so I'm fading, who could also explode, you know. Yeah, sort of losing my head a bit here. I haven't eaten today, guys. Shout out to the people that haven't eaten food today. McRae, I'm not even going to say a thing on. Lock. Smith. Lock. 69% owned. Nice. Just lock. Caleb Daniel, another. Do we really need to talk about it? Lock. Hugo Garcia. He's that third midfielder. I have considered maybe not playing him on ground for this first game because it's probably biased, but I think Adelaide are going to just terrorise the Saints in this first game, and there'll be a lower score for most of these guys. And then you got Sam Davidson, who I just think you need to have on field after watching that game against, was it Hawthorn? Can't remember who they played, but just was magnetised to the ball. Obviously playing wing, so it could go cold, but he looked right at home on a wing, and he's not someone I want to risk scoring another 100 on the bench, you know. He's playing North, not a tough matchup or anything. I just kind of guy you want on field, I think. And it does help with the bench options because Sam Wicks, he's another low-owned guy, I would say. Yeah, 2% owned. In the opening round game, like his score was good. It was fine, 74 or something like that. But the more pressing thing for me with Wicks was whether or not he could be droppable. But in that last quarter of the game, he was, I think, the player that stood up for Sydney. He was like the back end of them trying to win the game. It seemed like he was able to actually play his role like quite defensively and tackle. Like when the ball's down here, it looks like he'll score points. You know, he's not outside of the game. And he could have one of those sort of high mark games where things just go well for him. Because he's got a ceiling. He's scored some big scores before. He's capable of getting a heap of marks. Yeah, I think he'll grow into this role. I think he's someone you probably want to have. 2.3% owned. Like some of these guys, very low owned. Connor Stone, he looked fine. Just that 230k guy who looks better than others. I do have a little bit of extra cash to maybe get to someone else, but Stone looks solid there. I don't know who else you'd go to at the moment, so I like him, as do most. And then Luke Traynor there at the interchange, which is part of my play. I think Luke Traynor, firstly, he could score pretty well against Carlton. I think this guy is a little underlooked, and I'm hoping Uze just understands he should be playing because he's a good high draft pick, and I think he'll have an 80 out of nowhere at some stage early in the year if he's not getting subbed or is a sub, you know. I like him as a player. He's one to watch. But yeah, with Traynor there, he is the sort of, he's, as a defender in that spot, you know, if I want to trade Sam Taylor at his buy, he's the guy I can throw in, and then I don't have to be trading in a defender, you know. I can pick whoever I want with the price cash that I have. So yeah, I think that explains all my strategy coming in to the first games of the season. Going through ownership that I don't have, you know, like Horn-Francis is a guy I just can't really get to at his price. I can't see him being under 90, so don't blame anyone for picking him. But I don't know. I can't fit him in, and he's already high in price, so it's not like you're missing too much if he goes off for a 110 or something, you know. I just think there's better value. The one I am concerned about not having the most is Sanders, but I'm just happy to trade into him if he... Look at that fucking face. Goddamn puppy dog. What is he? Bizarre smile. Yeah, just Sanders last year, you know, in and out of the midfield a lot and then dropped. He will be better this year. It does sound like Treloar's coming back closer than expected. Matt Kennedy's around the place. Harms is around the place. We'll see what teams are named. He'll likely be a main mid in there, but he was quite handball happy. I can see him scoring like an 80 in round one, and then it's just like if he's not getting if he's not getting like a 90, I think I'm winning with the Sanders not having Sanders. But he's one to watch, obviously. If I'm not starting him, maybe he's someone you don't want to jump on with the midfielders coming back for the Dogs. So yeah, a lot of people still on Leak. I think this guy could get dropped quite easily. He just looked like a guy who was filling a lot of spots against Collingwood. His kicks didn't look too confident when he was, you know, going for goal and stuff. I just don't think he's ready for the AFL yet. I could see him dropped pretty quickly, and yeah, I don't want to be going there, especially with these guys that I've decided are my defender rookies and stuff. She's what I've talked about. Kako is one that maybe I can try and jump up to from Stone, but you know, he's a guy that could get a 40. He looks good. Looks like he'll be a really good small forward, but I just think Stone's the better pick. 37% with El Huali, or however it's pronounced. Sorry, Mr. Saad. Does that mean 37% of the comp is just not trying? Because he's not going to be playing. Like, is that really how many teams are made with no desire to win the thing? Like, I'd love to be starting Draper. I think he will be sub. I think Nick's plan will be to ease him into the season with back issues stemming from his pre-season and last year of footy. So yeah, maybe one to pivot into if he's named not as sub, but I think he'll be sub. I think he's a very likely sub guy. So yeah, love Draper though. He's going to be a beast. Then who else we got? Who else we got of importance? O'Driscoll. He looked really good. He's one I am concerned about not starting, but I just can't squeeze him in. If I could find a way to get him in whilst keeping everyone here, I would. But who am I fading? You know, it'd be probably maybe dropping Pryor or Cleary and trying to find the extra sort of how much, you know, like 20k I need for Pryor. Probably have to drop Trainer. It just messes things up in a way that is difficult for me to do. You know, maybe Rankin drops down and I can put him in, but I really don't want to be, you know, missing Rankin's first game. You know, these are the sacrifices we have to make. I was really hot on O'Driscoll. I think he's he's a good player, but he's the one. He's like the 23rd guy on field for me that I can't squeeze in. So no problems if you're starting O'Driscoll, you know. Laylaw's also one that could be named. He's interesting. Dropped in ownership, but keep an eye out for if he's named. It sounds like he could be, in which case maybe you need to get him in. And for who? I mean, I guess I can get him in for Trainer, but that messes with my Taylor selection. But if he's named round one and isn't sub, you probably want to start him because he's a round one pick and he'll just be there, you know. He's probably a very capable scorer as well, just as a talented kid, you know, Koning's there. Look, you probably needed the opening round game for him to really see what his role is going to be. He could play a lot of ruck. He's just not a guy I can get to. And then another guy that I can't fit in is Fraser. He's basically that last guy I'll talk about. No Dale in the games that he's played, but he looks good. He's just in this sort of mid-tier price range that's difficult for me to squeeze him in, especially with these other guys. This Ash. It's basically Ash over Fraser, I would say. Maybe I could drop Ash down to Fraser, but you've already got this massive score from Ash locked in, and he looks like playing that sort of similar role to Fraser as that second guy that accumulates after Whitfield / Dale, if that makes sense. I just prefer Ash, I think. It's just more secure, I think, for points. And we've already, like I said, for the 100th time, got his opening round score. So, yeah. That's about it. Anyone else I can really scroll through with high ownership? Not Reenie. Not really. Peatling's one, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Peatling's role is actually more fantasy friendly than what we first thought about his role, and then have sort of faded on. It's tough to work out how much forward time he's going to have early on for the Crows. I could see him being like that third guy, like 70% midfield time against the Saints. But also, flip of the coin, he could play like 40% forward time, it's hard to know with him. He's just a watch for me. And if you're not, you probably don't trade into him unless he goes massive and has really good CBA numbers. It's starting to look like he will have a similar role to what he did at the later half of the GWS season. Anyone else? Brayshaw looking a bit slow. Talked about Hollands. Not really anyone else of interest that I can see here. With a Dacos, though, scoring a 60, he just seems like our first target for the year to trade into. 42% owned. Bizarre. Wow, that's surprising. That's really surprising. Scoring a 60, he's going to drop in price straight away. His buy, I think, is round 3, so you could be trading like a day to Dacos. That seems reasonable. But who knows? I just think Dacos is the first guy we're going to want to be targeting, especially after that buy. Like, he'll be refreshed coming straight into the rest of the season there. I think you really want to try and get him in as soon as possible after his bye. So I'll be targeting. He's my first trade up target for the year, I think. Yeah, that's probably it. Can't really think of anything else. Yeah, that's it, fellas and fellettes. Number 36 signing out. So I might improve the way I make these in the future, but yeah, good luck. Have fun.